becoming a sound engineer, you were already that precise with the tuning of the drums.
Yes, it was coming. It was coming. I made a big change in 1975. Because in those days, we were tuning our toms really low, because that was the new rock sound, right? We went away from the jazz sound. But what I felt was they weren't singing. And I loved, my sound I owe to Billy Cobham, Jack DeJohnette, and Tony Williams.
Okay.
Because those three had very distinctive sounds. They had high-pitched tom-toms and ringy tom-toms, and I loved it. So I started tuning my toms high, which most engineers, they would go, it's ringing. I said...
And with single-ply heads.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Even in the kick drums.
I tried Evans. They were horrible. I tried, the double, the laminated heads. I tried pinstripes. I was using black spots because that's all we could get in England at that time. And then I discovered you could actually peel the spot off. So that's what I used to do. I used to buy CS heads, and then I'd take all the spots off just to get, there we go. Now we have what acoustically sounds one way, but once you put a microphone and it goes through a mic pre or console and goes to a tape machine and comes out a pair of speakers, it's quite different. There's some tape saturation, there's some natural compression, there's, depending on which microphone the engineer is using, it will change the sound. And I thought, I'm just going to try this and see how I get on. And
you work with your dynamics too with this.
That's the,
because it counts.
You've got dynamics. That's what's beautiful about it. And as long as there's no excessive ring, a good engineer is probably going to go, he's going to have to turn his mic gain down because they're going to be louder. That's the first thing that happens. He's probably going, this actually sounds pretty good, Now I had some engineers that, this is now mid-70s, who didn't get on with my sound at all, and others who loved it. And I had artists who didn't quite like the snare sound because it was more high-pitched, and other artists who love it. And I remember this one artist, his name was B.A. Robertson. He's a songwriter, actually, but he did do some solo records. And I remember he came up to me, this was 1976, in a studio called Morgan Studio 4, and he said, your sound, I love it. I love your sound. Don't change it. It's different from everybody in London. I went, okay. That's kind of
let's do it.
Where it started, yeah.
And when maybe you don't do it, but do you record other drummers as a sound
absolutely.
engineer?
I love doing that.
How do you manage their sound? Because maybe the most of the time their sound doesn't like yours.
Yeah. Well, then I become the engineer.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And it's very important that I'm not the drummer, Simon Phillips. I'm the engineer. So as a professional engineer, you go out and you listen to every instrument that there is, and you go, okay. And I can tell just by looking at the drum kit. Okay, all right. And then I might say, I usually mic up the kit, but if I've got an assistant, I might say, all right, let's grab a 57 for that tom. But these will put condensers on, just depending on how close the cymbals are and all this kind of stuff. And I kind of look at the kit to see where the center line is, because that's very important for the overheads. The two most important microphones in a drum kit are the overheads. They're what I call the piano mics, because that's where you get your sound from. Because older engineers, they only had two overheads and a kick drum, right? So everything had to come from those two. Alan Parsons, he uses 3 overheads. That's it, no tom-tom mics. Glyn Johns, he uses a very unorthodox kind of miking where the mics are actually below the cymbals, but it's the same concept. And as long as the drum kit is balanced, it can sound great. And that's where I start my sound. have to respect the musician's sound as an engineer. And that I've learned by being the musician in many studios. So you've got to be careful. And I've also worked with engineers who are really like, no, can you tune that up and blah, blah, blah. And, famous Charlie Watts story. He was recording in my studio in England with Jack Bruce. Jack used to live very close by. And the engineer was a great engineer called Stuart Bruce. And he recorded, I think he did Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Okay.
He worked a lot with Trevor Horn, and he did Nick Kershaw albums. I worked with him a lot, and he's great. And so Charlie's in the live room, and Stuart goes, "Hey Charlie, yeah, can you tune that floor tom up a bit?" And Charlie's reply was, "Ooh, you'd better do that. Here's the key." So you see what I mean, So it really depends. If I am just engineering the session, I'll see. If there's something not working, I'll go out and maybe make a suggestion.
No, and
but very,
I think they listen to you when you have a suggestion.
Yeah. If I'm producing, now that might be a little bit different. I remember with, I think with Virgil Donati producing the Planet X album.
Planet X.
And most of it was sounding good, but the kick drum was not sounding good, because I don't like the sound of most people's kick drums because of these new silly heads in three, what are they called? Super stroke, power stroke, three, or whatever.
Many plays.
They've just
too many plays.
ruined the bass drum sound. It sounds like a baseball, and a very dead one. It goes ping. It's very plasticky. So I did actually say to him, I said,
Virgil. Virgil.
Yes, Virgil. I was thinking Virgil. I said, hey, how about we put a clear ambassador on your bass drum? And he was fine. I said, yeah, okay, let's try that, Now I know it makes it weird because it makes the bass drum feel different, but boy, we got a great bass drum sound. Suddenly it was like, now we have some air, we have a drum, And he dug it, he loved it, I think. In the big picture, I think he just didn't agree with the feel of it. But he's so good anyway, it just didn't make a difference. It was still ridiculous.
So, I have a bonus question about the tunings, because I have a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine. He wants to know, how do you tune your main snare drum? According to the kit, or according only to the snare drum?
Interesting. Usually according to the snare drum, because if it's not working, and especially in the studio, the first thing I'm going to change is the snare drum. In fact, I rarely change anything else. Toms, I never change. Very occasionally, I might put some things on the toms if I'm going for a very specific sound. If we're doing like an Al Green song type thing, right? I'll put these they're called roots EQ. I'll just put them on the other toms just to stop them ringing, and I'll surround the kit with baffles.
Okay.
And one tom, I'll either put an EQ thing on it or some padding just to make it sound. I might even detune it. But that's for a very specific sound. But otherwise, they stay the same. The kick drum changes a little bit, only by damping. I might put a sandbag on it just to make it a little tighter. But the snare, that's the one. I'll go and play the track and I'll go, snare drum sounds not right. Because that's really your main focus. And up goes another snare. Now, as soon as I change that snare, it might be a quieter or a louder drum, which is going to change the way the overheads sound. Of course, it's going to change your balance, which changes the whole kit. And then, but the other things I do are if it's a ballad, if I'm working with another engineer, if I'm working myself, I just go click, 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 But if I'm working with someone else, I said, turn every input up, one click. And you go, really? I said, yeah, I'm going to play really quietly. And he goes, oh, okay. So he goes, all the mic pre's, one click, and on Neve, that's a 5 dB step. So it's quite a big step. So suddenly all the mic gains are much louder. So you have to be very careful, otherwise they might clip going into digital. And I play really quietly. The whole kit just sounds amazing. You know, for a ballad, doom, 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 and hitting in the center of the snare, tuned down a little bit, a bit of damping. Huge, sounds amazing. You just got to remember for the next track to turn it all back down again.
That's the thing.
Yeah, but you see, it's manipulating and being, obviously, I've been in engineering professionally for 43 years. So, you know, I understand these things and know how to manipulate the recording side as well as the acoustic side, the drum side, you know. There's a lot of tricks you can do. But typically, I'm very old-fashioned, actually, in my engineering. I'm from the old school. I started with tape machines, big format consoles. So you have a certain way that you work, you know, and a lot of it is how you want to hear it. That's how each engineer gets their sound.
And for example, on a snare, you keep the harmonics.
The ring, you mean?
Yeah, the ring thing.
Fuck yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes I will tune it to the if it's fairly close, or let's say I listen to the playback and I go, snare is just a little bit sharp because I can hear the tone is clashing with the track. I'm going to tune it to the track. That's a great thing to do, and then you can let it ring. But again, a lot of engineers, younger engineers I've worked with anyway, they listen in isolation. They get the drum sounds and they go, and I say, how's it sounding? And they go, it's okay. I said, well, come, let me have a listen. And I'll go and listen. I go, wow, sounds great, well done. And he's going, really? And Bob Clearmountain did this when I first worked with him. I said, run the track. Let me go and play the track. And once the music was there, it was like, oh, right? It fit the music. That's the thing. You cannot listen to any instrument in isolation. You can get the sound with it isolated, but once everybody's playing, that's where you're going to find out whether the tones...
And especially the drums, right. Because you never hear a drum, just one drum.
No, exactly. I know. It's, yeah.
Thank you, Simon, for everything. I have a last question. You toured a lot with many big bands, and the bigger one was Toto. Mm-hmm. And do you miss this period or not? Because you have now time to make many things, protocol albums,
yes,
solo work, the clinics and everything, and Hero Me and all the things. Yeah. Do you miss the Toto years?
No.
No?
No. I had a wonderful innings, 21 years of Toto, but that was it for me. I love to play new music all the time. I'm not very good at being on the road playing the same set every night. Even with protocol, I start getting bored. Oh. I start getting bored of playing my own songs. I'm like, here we go again, you know. I live off the fact of creating new music. And it doesn't matter, often doesn't matter what style. I just produced a record in Los Angeles. We started in February. I can't mix it, unfortunately, because I'm out here. But the engineer I work with, he's mixing it. Very simple songs, really straight songs, beautiful. Love doing that because of all the records I've made and played on. A lot of them are like that. They're just just rock songs or ballads or something like that. So, you know, it's built in. I know what to do when we get to the song.
It's also part of your work that people that are into drums don't know, because you play with many artists, pop artists, rock songs and etc. But people know you for the Who and the Big Kit, and they know you with Jeff Beck. They know you for maybe the Derek Sherinian albums, things like that. Great albums. But you record how many albums? You maybe you don't know it.
How many albums?
Yes,
I have no idea. I know there's a lot. I was during COVID. I started putting together, luckily I have all my old diaries from 1973 to when I left England, so 1992. They were saved from the fire that I had. Unfortunately, they were different kind of calendars that I had from 92 up to when I started using, a computer calendar. Yeah. I lost all those, so they're going to be hard to figure out. But I have all of the sessions, and I started, making an Excel file. And 1976 it's like 3 pages long of Excel. I mean, it's ridiculous. I look at it, I go, wow. And I was doing like 3 sessions a day. I mean, it was crazy. But we all were, all the session guys in Los Angeles, in New York, in London, probably in Paris too. I used to come to Paris in the late 70s, early 80s to record with Michel Berger and
Véronique Sanson.
Yeah, it was lovely.
I saw a video of Véronique Sanson live. You were maybe 16 on stage.
19 ans.
19 ans.
Always, how I remember 1976 and how old I am, because I forget, as we do when we get older. I always think of Véronique going, I can't remember what she said, la batterie, il est 19 ans. And I went, yeah, 1976, I was 19, yeah. So, that was, all wonderful experience, really. Yeah, lovely.
And that's why you finished with the biggest guys in the studios in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It's more natural.
Yeah. And I ended up engineering the Toto albums.
I know.
Which was, I mean, I was really kind of honored when Luke said, because Luke had worked on the Derek Sherinian album, Inertia. And so he heard my studio and he was playing, and then he heard the mixes and he went,
you know how to work.
Wow, let's record here. So we actually did a covers album, Through the Looking Glass, at my house. And then we did Falling in Between at my studio when I opened that. So I felt very honored,
Like I am to have this moment with you, Simon.
Thank
you very much.
My pleasure.
And I wish you the best for the rest.
Lovely. Mon plaisir. Merci.
Merci, Simon.